It really does feel like a beefy German Miata. I love it.
Living on clown shoe.
Hell yeah. I want to tell you about my 1999 BMW M Coupe. I bought an Imola red clown shoe 2.5 years ago with plans to restore and upgrade it as a DIY project. The goal was a nice little OEM plus mountain car that could do a track day here and there. Well, my DIY plans did not work out, and that's because my life took a detour when I decided to start a business with some friends, and that business is this, Wolf Pen. That left me with basically zero free time for a DIY car project. When a DIY project stalls, it's like a lead acid battery that goes dead. Over time, a chemical reaction occurs that makes it harder and harder to bring it back to life. I could feel that happening with my M Coupe. My project was in trouble. So I did what I've learned you should do when you're in over your head, and I asked for help. Which was not easy for me because I think of myself as a DIY guy. But you can learn a lot from a project, even if other people are doing the heavy lifting, and that's why I wanted to share this story. The car had over 140,000 miles on it when I picked it up near Austin, Texas, and drove it home to Atlanta. There were a lot of little things wrong with it. One of them was chrome side grills that were not original to the car and were not to my taste. It's hard to imagine that they were to anyone's taste.
It's gone.
But the 240 horsepower S52 has a reputation for being a nearly bulletproof motor, and the car didn't have any rust. Owning a Euro shop does have its perks, and during some downtime, the guys knocked out a few items for me. I had owned the car for 1.5 years at that point, but I wasn't driving it very much because it was leaking multiple types of fluid on my garage floor. We replaced the water pump, the radiator, and the oil pan gasket. And I dodged a bullet when we did the oil pan gasket because Gabe, one of our techs, who was not the tech assigned to the car, noticed that the nut that holds on the oil pump had loosened and was hanging on by about 2 threads. With the car mechanically sorted out, it was time to address the paint, which was looking very dull and tired. One of my very favorite characters that I've gotten to know in the local auto industry is Sean Martin, who owns the collision company here in Roswell. They do a lot of paint work, and Sean offered to have Michael, his paint correction wizard, take a crack at the clown shoe. A common theme with this project, which is one of the reasons why I was excited to make this video, is that it is extremely satisfying to watch skilled tradespeople do their work. Michael spent a lot of time working on my quarter-century-old paint, and it came out looking like new. Now might be a good time to mention that we don't have any sponsors for this video. Jack and I are here on a Saturday because we love telling stories about cars. We've noticed that 95% of viewers are not subscribed. Our wives would really appreciate it if more of our viewers would subscribe because it justifies us coming in on a Saturday. So if you could hit that button, we would appreciate it. The car came from Texas with some pretty dark tint that was turning purple and starting to fail. My original plan was to remove it myself because I think that classic cars look better without tint. But like a lot of lower priority projects, such as putting my dishes in the sink or folding my laundry, I never got around to it. And then at one of the car shows we host here, I met Melody Champagne, who owns Champagne Window Tinting, and her shop is just a couple miles down the road in Roswell. Melody taught me about heat-rejecting ceramic tint. She's got this little demo box with a heat lamp that demonstrates how effective it is. It is shockingly effective. One thing I was surprised to learn is that how well the tint rejects heat has nothing to do with how dark it is. So I was able to get my classic untinted look and still get maximum heat rejection. Part of the key was having the windshield done along with the windows and the sunroof. Slick top M Coupes are out there, but they're very rare. Most of them, like mine, have a gigantic sunroof that transmits a lot of heat. After the full tint treatment, the car does stay much cooler, even if it's sitting in the Georgia summer sun. I think the car looks 100% classier now, and you can see the cargo divider net, which I think is one of the car's iconic visual elements. The visual transformation of the car was already impressive, but there were a lot of small dents and dings that would catch your eye. John Hewitt owns the Dent Specialist here in Roswell, and as the name implies, they specialize in paintless dent removal. John came out to our shop to work his magic on the car over the course of a couple of days. PDR is not something even die-hard DIY guys would try themselves. There are so many specialty tools and techniques involved, I think your only option is to call in a pro. Watching John at work made me take extra time to soak in the car's body lines. The M Coupe has a great backstory. The BMW engineers wanted to turn the Roadster into a true sports car, and the higher-ups agreed, but they said that costs had to be kept to an absolute minimum, which meant that they could change as few body panels as possible. The result is a really unique shooting brake design that is really love it or hate it for a lot of people. But to me, there are a couple of angles where the car looks absolutely gorgeous. It's also got one of my favorite ever wheel designs, second maybe only to the Ferrari F50, that just screams 1990s. The PDR work took a lot of hours, but in my mind, it was worth the effort. With the cosmetics out of the way, it was time to address performance, which is my favorite part. I was not going for a full track day build, so some restraint was in order. That is not my strong suit. With advice from the guys, I went with the BC Racing BR Series coilovers. At $1,200 it's a great bang for the buck kit. It features single adjustment for compression and rebound, and of course adjustable ride height. The suspension had been a big source of decision paralysis for me. You could do upgraded struts and lowering springs, but then you don't have any adjustability. Or you could go with something higher end like the Öhlins Road and Track, which we really like, or even the MCS three-way racing setup. I wasn't ready for that kind of investment in this car, but I absolutely had to do something. Having the guys steer me in the direction of the BC Racing setup was exactly what I needed because it fit within my budget and it was a vast improvement over my blown factory shocks. It also gave me the adjustability I wanted, both in terms of ride height and damper stiffness. Then there was the issue of the stereo. The car came with a Kenwood head unit that was probably 20 years old, and it was displaying a fault code if you tried to turn it on. This was another potential rabbit hole to go down. Do we try to fix the Kenwood? Do we try to find a factory head unit? Do I switch to a double DIN head unit? Or maybe do I look for a classic looking head unit that has Bluetooth functionality? Luckily, I met another M Coupe owner, again at one of our meets, and he had a single DIN Apple CarPlay head unit by a company called Power Acoustic, and that's acoustic with a K. They are not a revered audiophile brand, but the unit I wanted was literally in stock at the Walmart down the street for $150. The microphone is built into the head unit, so aside from a little bit of dremeling of the faceplate to get it to fit into the BMW opening, it was pretty much plug and play. With minimal cost and effort, I went from no functioning stereo to wireless CarPlay, which fit my needs perfectly. Next up was the tires. The car came with Michelin Pilot Super Sports that were 10 years old and still had a lot of tread left. Tires for a sports car are a big decision because there are so many options out there depending on your use case and your budget. I like a lot of tire brands. Yokohama is one of them. They have a lot of performance options. The Advan V601 is a 280 treadwear high performance summer tire. It's similar to Michelin's Pilot Sport 4S, good for an occasional track day and perfect for the kind of driving this car is going to see. The last piece of the puzzle was the alignment. Now, Porsche's sports cars will let you dial in a pretty aggressive setup if that's what you want, but BMW doesn't allow that from the factory. We didn't have any camber adjustment with the stock suspension, but as you lower the ride height, the camber gets more aggressive. So we ended up selecting our ride height based on how aggressive we wanted our alignment to be, which confirms that coilovers were the right decision. Also, the car looks so much better when you eliminate that ridiculous factory wheel gap. And I love it when you get an aesthetic improvement from a functional upgrade. The street drive showed a huge improvement in comfort and handling, but driving on surface streets isn't going to give you a lot of insight in terms of how the car is going to handle in spirited driving. I'm fortunate enough to have a membership at Atlanta Motorsports Park, which is only about an hour north of our shop in Roswell. A private track day is the perfect way to shake down a fresh build and get to know the handling dynamics of a sports car. I have to say, the M Coupe was amazing. It's a tiny car, but at 3,200 pounds, it's heavier than you would expect. And since modern sports cars have so much more horsepower, you do have to treat the M Coupe like a Miata and try to preserve your momentum through the corners. It really does feel like a beefy German Miata. I love it. There's something about that era of BMW that's really magical to drive on track. The E30, the E36, they have this quality where the chassis is really playful and they have enough power to make the rear end rotate, which is something the Miata doesn't really have. The M Coupe shares suspension components from both of those generations, and it really shows. The track day was fantastic. The car was everything that I wanted it to be, and the project was done. But I had let it sit too long before I got started. So the dead battery effect had set in, and mentally I was ready to move on. After I got back from the track, I listed it for sale, and almost immediately I got a couple thousand more than I paid for it. Wow. And looking back at the track footage and thinking about how great it was, I wonder if maybe I sold it too soon. I wish I had taken it up for a weekend in the mountains. But that's life. You live, you learn, you apply the lessons to the next project. And I do have another project lined up.